Glad you are here and let's get started. Yay! So, for today, we're going to be talking about branding and how to make your booth stand out at the show. That's today's topic. So, welcome. Glad you are here. Let me know where you're from and how you're doing in the chat. And let me know if you can hear me too, because I had a funny little audio setting on my mic. I had to. Good. Sounds like you can hear me. Okay. All right. So, number one, in terms of making your booth stand out at the show. I'm going to go through some things that you can rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And by the end of this, 20, 30-minute session, you'll see some that pop out and that you can get into and they'll help you at NAB or wherever you're going next for your next event. So number one is be clear on your messaging and who you are. And I know that sounds a little bit 10,000-foot view, but I was talking with my friend Dominique Gagnon yesterday, and she is just so busy working on NAB stuff that she is not here today, and I am representing for her. And she gave me some great tips. So when she works with booth companies, was telling me that, it's super important to know that piece and knowing who you're for and what you solve. That's what I think super important. I'm just going to pop a little resource into the chat here. And if you're watching the replay, I'll pop it into the show notes too. Knowing who you're for and what you solve is so important because it's really easy. We've all done it. I've done it. Have a trade show booth where we talk about new product, does this, kind of like announcing the product and not announcing what it solves for the person. And maybe people go by and look at it and they don't know, oh, that's for me. That's going to solve an issue that I have. So knowing who you're for and what you solve, I think is the top thing. And even if the show's like 2 weeks away, you still have time to just double check that and be sure you're on point with your booth and what's happening. So just knowing that is going to help toward making your booth stand out at the show, right? So who you're for and what you solve. So rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 right now. Maybe just jot down who you're for. So if you are for engineers at TV stations, great. If you're for editors, great. Whatever it is, know who you're for. And maybe there's 2 or 3 personas and then what you solve for them, because that has to just be super standout on the booth, right? If you're just at the show and somebody's coming by, we need them to know, that's me and I have that issue, right? Instead of just like product. We love products, we love services, we love software, and also who we're for and what we solve. So that's a piece of it. Right. The second thing to think about, and this is from Dominique too, I love how she talks about taking your 2D marketing and turning it into your 3D marketing. So she thinks about trade shows as the 3D marketing bit, and then 2D marketing is your website, your brochures, your online presence, your socials, all those things that you're working on. And so taking that 2D marketing that you already have and then translating it into your 3D marketing, your show, makes total sense. So do you have your message defined in your 2D marketing, right? If we look on your website, so a little bit back to who you're for and what you solve, but do you have that there? Do you have your sort of look and feel? Are there graphics and photos that you always use? If not, maybe take a photo and develop a graphic or two. A little tight before the show in 2 weeks, but you still could do it. And be sure that that style is matching. My friend Lindsay always talks about the top matching the bag, matching the shoes. And what she means by that is we want all of the different pieces of our marketing to be consistent so that when people see something, they go, that's right. So that you've got a consistent theme throughout everything. We wouldn't want the website looks like one thing and the trade show booth looks like a completely different company, right? We want those kind of tied in. So taking your 2D marketing, making sure it ties into your 3D marketing. So thinking about that, where do you fit in among other companies in your space? What other visuals are you consistently using? I had one of the companies that I worked with a while ago, we had a half rack unit box, and just for stunning visuals, we took a really nice photo. I was holding the box, and then we used that really giant overhead, and then of course underneath it we talked about the problem that it solves. as well. So somebody could look at that and go, ah, I have that problem. And then in this case, the product, it was really easy to see sort of what it did. And it was in and of itself, it was looked beautiful. And then the front panel showed a lot of functionality. So stating the problem and then having the photo, beautiful, big, same stuff on the website, same stuff on the brochures. So if you can have that eye-catching photo. Now, how many of you here have the opportunity or have ever used overhead hanging signs at the show? Sometimes you're in a space where you can't. If you're in a 10 by 10, it's probably not an option. If you're in a bigger space where you're allowed to have an overhead sign. Yeah. And you can chat to me directly or you can chat to the whole group so you can see it either way. So feel free to chat privately if you want. Okay. Yeah, yeah, exactly so. So one of the comments here is that yes, but it can be expensive. That is true, because especially at NAB, you got to pay the cherry picker to adjust the sign and stuff. One thing about having that sign though is of course the visibility. So that's a great way to make something pop if you've got the chance. Depending on the booth specs, maybe you can do a higher wall in the back that has that on it. And again, something noticeable, something you're known for. I was working with some company. Just a couple years ago, and they had some info about their company, and it was all gray and kind of dark. And we changed everything to a sun yellow, and they've used that ever since. It's really bright, has their company name, which really tells what they do. And then also in their booth, this is really cool. They've got a physical demonstration of their product that's moving a little bit so somebody can see what's happening with it. So that bright, consistent yellow, you can see it from really far away. So how to make your booth pop, just think about that. We would sometimes, when I worked at a manufacturer, we'd build up the booth in advance. And as much as possible, I would stand back 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, and just kind of look at how does it look from here? How does it look from there? Because at the show, I mean, the number of times I've gotten to the show and the booth's up and I thought, oh man, I didn't realize that that workstation would be blocking that other thing that I thought was in view. So those kinds of things, if you can think about your 3D marketing and what it's going to be like from the user experience. What else is fun with that? Um, all right. I want to just mention too, in this sort of 3D marketing space, you can think about any kind of technology. Since we're in the technology space, does it make sense to have video running? Does it make sense to have some audio running? I know sometimes the ambient sound in the hall takes away from any audio that you have going, but if it makes sense, you can have speakers and all that kind of stuff. Those are things you can still do in the next few weeks. I know it's tight, but you could if you wanted to. You could add a little bit of change in terms of how you're doing audio. What about lighting? You can definitely do that at the last minute. And I am saying that speaking from experience where I got the whole booth set up and I'm like, ooh, this part that's supposed to really pop and it's a bright, beautiful color. It's kind of not popping as I walk by and had some extra lights added to it. So adding lights, that's one thing. Just jot down right now, how are you doing on a scale of 1 to 10 with your lighting for your booth? It makes such a difference. And so as somebody's walking by, they're gonna, oh, okay. And so adding a few lights to the key areas of your booth, even after it's set up, I used to bring extra lighting with. So we're like, here's how we're gonna have the lighting. And I've got this box of extra lighting that we're bringing along as well. If you can have some gobo lights, things moving or different stuff. So lighting, not to be underestimated, pretty easy to add in if you want to. So I wanted to mention about that. All right, so the first thing we talked about is that being clear about your messaging. The second thing we talked about is the 3D marketing, which had a lot of elements to it. As you're marking yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, just, take notes on what things you could maybe just pick 2 or 3 things out of today's session and apply them to kind of up your situation at NAB or your next show. All right, so third thing to ponder. And if we're talking NAB, this is, we're past this, but if we're talking IBC or next shows or other events that you're coming up on, we just didn't, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention budget and time frame. So when figuring out about your booth and what you're going to do, of course, we want to figure out This is around the amount of money I want to spend. I want to have it done around this date. And of course, as you're planning to make your booth pop at the show, knowing those things are really important. Fourth thing, I like to think of it as the 3 second rule. Some people say 7 second rule or even longer. So this is, we touched on it a moment ago, is when someone walks by your booth, can they see what you solve and who you're for as they walk by? Or do they walk by and go, huh, I see a company name, but I don't know what they make? Who's had that happen? Walk by a booth in the show and you're like, huh, wonder what those guys do. I see a company name and some text, but because I don't have any context about who it's for and what it solves, I'm still walking and they're walking and we miss them, right? So that's super important. I have a quick thing I remembered right before this, before we got on today, and I just jotted it down. I got to the show one time and was doing that walk by, just pretending to be my prospect, my customer. And I looked over at the graphics and I realized that I couldn't read it very well. Of course, I was mortified because we'd had a bunch of graphics printed up. Now, this is pretty early, and so I was able to, I think we were 2 or 3 days out. So a couple of the key graphics, it's just embarrassing. I had to reprint because I looked at it and I'm like, it's not readable enough. It looks cool. It's designed really nicely, but readability is so crucial. And so size of your font, of your typeface, that size, the what I did after that is I'd always make graphics and stick them up on the wall and literally go to the other end of the room or wherever and just look, can I really read that? It's a cool typeface when I'm sitting here on my computer, but when I'm far away, the readability is not so good. So you can think about serif and non-serif fonts and typefaces, and can you really read it? And we know, how the eye works in terms of having dark over light. It's really easy to sometimes get into switching that and have light over dark. And if you have a lot of text like that, people just look away. And so you can see studies online about all the different readability and those types of things. So like how big is it when I'm standing? Is it just 2 inches tall or is it 2 feet tall in terms of the typeface? I'm looking at it on my computer in Illustrator or whatever we're working in and looks good there, but in reality, in the real world and the light of day, yeah. So that's my story about graphics. I more than once I had to reprint things because I realized they weren't readable and I was missing people. So that's the fourth thing. How are you doing on the graphics? Yeah. Everybody doing last minute graphics, or maybe you're all done and it's shipped in the can and it's good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's super important. Fifth thing to think about is sort of your vibe. What are you going for? What's the perception? And so, do you have a coffee? Are you serving drinks, comfortable seating and refreshments? That kind of thing. And so, as people come by, because we're talking about how to make your booth pop at the show, if they have like an inviting feeling, I think we can't we can't leave the part about booth staff out of this, even though yesterday we talked all about booth staff, what to do and what not to do on yesterday's session. Thinking about the vibe, really the people in the booth are setting that vibe so much, along with your graphics and your coffee and your demo stations and whatever. The people, so if the people are on their phones and looking, just not paying attention and stuff, or look mean, or whatever the thing is, we want it to be inviting, and the people are such a key to that. And having the person who's maybe, even if you're a small company, got 2 people, 3 people at the show, the kind of person who's setting the tone and setting the vibe for everything, that person's super key. And they're whatever they do, other people are going to follow suit. So who's ever sort of leading the vibe in the company, really important for them to have that inviting. We want you to come in. We're of service. Whatever your kind of vibe you're going for, just be clear about it and like not be haphazard, thinking about it in a purposeful manner. Along those lines, sixth thing to ponder is your sort of presentations, demonstrations, hands-on situation. Having live demos is great. I've spent years doing live demos, and so I've done it on a stage with a mic and a headset and running software, and then a lot of one-on-one demos where you hear what does the person want, and then go ahead and show that to them. And so you could do it in a scheduled manner. So if you're trying to make your booth pop at the show, of course, if you have a stage and you're like, demonstrations on the hour, people are going to notice that. If you're a smaller company or really any size company, you can still have regular scheduled demos. And then you can also just do the one-on-one, but make it super inviting so people come in. They don't feel like, ooh, I don't know if I'm qualified to get that demo, that kind of thing. So make it really nice for them to come in. And of course, we want the presentations to be like informative, engaging, really showing the benefits, like what is it going to solve for them. So it's not just a list of specs and functions, but really how does it help them? The whole what's in it for me, not me, but the customer who's there, making sure all of this, in fact, the whole thing, right? That the graphics, the demos, all of it is all focused in on what does the customer need. And so it's easy to think about what we want to do at the show and what we want to show. But of course, most importantly, is what do they want to see? And we need to pivot the whole booth to fit what they want to see. All right. Let's see. Oh, so many things. Okay, I'll do a couple more and then we're gonna call it good. We can do some QA if you want as well. So giveaways, contests, branded merch can also help people see you at the show floor. And so of course, we're not really dialed into this today, but your pre-show marketing is crucial, right? I did a webinar with someone this morning, and they had a whole bunch of people on there who, of course, they hope to meet with at the show. So all of that pre-show marketing and booking appointments and everything is so crucial. And so having giveaways and contests and branded merch, if you want to, that's a thing you can use both in advance and at the show. One of the things I used to do is when I had a booth, we'd get really nice shirts and stuff printed up, and we'd ask people to reserve their shirt in advance or their whatever item it is in advance. So what size do you want? I'm going to have it set aside for you. And so people were seeing other people lining up to get their stuff. So immediately, if there's something happening in your booth, people are interested and want to come in and see what's going on. And also, I just got people to come to the booth because I'm like, reserve your item, come in and get it. And then it takes a little work because you got to have names on the stuff and filed and a spot for it and be able to hand it out and all the things. You can always limit it and just have your first 20 people or however many people you want to do with that. But that's a great way to do pre-show promotion and create some buzz at the show. All right, final. I think I'm going to wrap it on this final one. Events, parties, videos, things that you can do at your booth. Events and parties can cost some money, and it depends on if you've got that in your budget or not. But you can do videos in the booth, and that will get people. It can cost no money, or you can pay a nominal fee. We work with Kit Plus all the time because they're so great and it's a great price, and you get the video and everything. So we work with them. And what I noticed with that is when they come in, they'll schedule an appointment to come in and do that video and interview somebody and showing what's the latest and greatest and stuff at the show. People are coming by, oh, what's going on there? They want to see that video shoot. It attracts a bunch of attention. And so if you can do your own videos or scheduled press videos, great way to get some buzz going in your booth. So you might think of having an event of some sort at your booth every day. Maybe you decide, I'm going to do a video shoot at my booth every single day. If you haven't planned it, you still can plan it, right? You can just do it yourself. Just make a thing and plan to do that. Of course, you can have parties. One of the companies I've worked with for a long time and had the pleasure of doing stuff with, they always have a gin and tonic night and I think they just do it every night. So now people come by. Great way. People just are always showing up there at 5 for their G&T, and it's a known thing. They do it every time, gets people to the booth. So any kind of fun thing that gets people to the booth, whether event, party, giveaway, video interviews, anything like that is a wonderful way to get yourself to pop at the show. All right. Well, what questions do you have? I want to mention I've got some templates on things that we do, especially for the pre-show promotion. We didn't really get into that today, but you know, got to do all the pre-show stuff to get people there, and it's definitely not too late to do that now. You can be doing it. So if you text the word events to me at 1-530-203-5703, I will send you, I've got a chapter in my book, Seven Marketing Basics, and you'll get a free chapter that includes a bunch of our templates that we use for the pre-show promotion. And they're really things that we do with clients every day. So we're in the midst right now of, doing lots of promotion and helping folks get people to the booth and also engage with people who aren't necessarily coming to the show, but we want to engage with them too because that's a great opportunity. And so that will give you a bunch of the templates that we use with clients all the time. Okay, great. All right. Yes. Okay, that's a great question. All right. So one of the questions here is about the video interviews. So thank you for that because I did mention about video interviews. I've got a video interview checklist. I'll put it in the show notes and yes, I will email it to you afterward as well. So getting ready for those video interviews is an important thing. And I'm glad you asked about, video interviews and how to prep. So that was the question. I've done a bunch of them and I can remember my first ones and I was so nervous and tried to say too much, didn't know what to say. And so I've come up with a little strategy for that I'm happy to share. And I've got a little PDF that outlines it as well. So think of the top two or three things that you want to talk about in that video interview. And so you might just jot down on your hand the three product names that you want to talk about, but that's just your reminder. We want to pivot it toward what the problems are, who you're for, and what you solve. So you can just have those three things in mind and then memorize your open and memorize your close. The open and close can be one sentence. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. The open could be as simple as, hey, if you're an engineer at a station and you're working with this, I've got a couple things for you right here at NAB. And then now you don't have the details written on your hand, but just the two or three products. So you can say, okay, so for live events, if you're doing this, da 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 da, for test and measurement, if you're doing so, whatever the things are, so name off the two or three things. And at the end, if you want more info, you can get it here. If you want to download a demo, you can get it here. So whatever your closing thing is a way for them to take another step, a next step with you. So that's a great way to do the videos. I will put the PDF that I mentioned in the show notes, and thank you for asking that, and I'll get that emailed to you as well. That's a good one. I like that one a lot. That's so good. All right, I think we will wrap it up there. Thank you for being here. And so, as you've rated yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 around events, parties, and videos, giveaways, contests, branded merch, what you're doing with live presentations, demos, hands-on experience in the booth, your vibe, your perception, the 3-second rule when someone walks by to see, who you're for, what do you solve? Do they see themselves in what you're in your graphic? Looking at the budget and the timeline, and also looking at your 3D marketing. We had a big section on that. And then the first thing we covered, and it's super important, is being clear on your message and who you are. As you look at all those points on a scale of 1 to 10, do you have maybe 2 of those that bubble up, 3 of those that bubble up that you might work on before NAB? Or maybe you're like all perfect on all those. Who's all perfect on all those? Anybody? Let me know in the chat. Okay. I'm seeing a few things. Good. All right. Lovely seeing you today. See you